Céad Míle Fáilte, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 2021 Gala. Tonight we celebrate together as a community and friends. Thank you for joining us.
Taoiseach, Prime Minister Micheál Martin, former President Mary McAleese, ambassadors, distinguished honorees, President Hamilton, deans, ladies and gentlemen. Céad Míle Fáilte, welcome to you all. We're thrilled to have so many join us for our annual gala in celebration of Ireland, Irish America and Glucksman Ireland House. This gala will celebrate the best and most talented people who've reached the heights of public service, global business, poetry, music and journalism. This is the home of Glucksman Ireland House at New York University in Greenwich Village. We're rightly recognized as one of the world's primary centers of Irish studies, often called the jewel in the crown of New York University. I can personally attest to the intellectual rigor and stimulation of the master's program here as I completed it 4 years ago. I must say, it was a transformative experience which I'd recommend to the young and not so young like me. While our building is closed because of COVID, our teaching, research and public events continue as strong as ever, thanks to the generosity and support of our donors and contributors, many of whom are with us tonight. Technology and Zoom have enabled us to reach thousands more people who love Irish history, literature and poetry. The pandemic has caused much hardship and suffering, and we're grateful for the resilience and courage of all those who work hard to keep us safe and well. What Seamus Heaney said about the Irish Troubles in 1972 surely applies to us in this year of plague. Quote, "If we winter this one out, we can summer anywhere." That optimistic sentiment stands in contrast to the line often attributed to Oscar Wilde that a sense of impending doom carries most Irish people through long periods of tranquility. Indeed, in tranquil times we'd be having a jolly party across Washington Square Park, sharing the joke, toasting our honorees, students and professors. We'd also be viewing the annual greening of the Empire State Building in honour of our gala. Now it's said that family, culture, music are the glue that keep the Irish community connected around the world, all 70 million of us, including over 30 million in America. So we invite you all to sit back with your libation of choice, be it Barry's tea or another Irish brew. Enjoy the next hour of celebration, music and fun as we meet the great and the good that make up the diverse and rich mosaic of being Irish in the 21st century. And to open, I want to introduce some of our many talented and wonderful students. This is why we endure. This is our heart.
I think one of the things that attracted me most to the program is you have both this strong sense of Irish history, but also Irish literature, Irish art, Irish music. And so it's a great place to be able to take advantage of those synergies in one place.
NYU Glucksman Ireland House is innovative, it is pushing boundaries, and ultimately it's creating a richer community in doing so.
There are three important things we do in Ireland House: teaching, researching and programming. Every semester we teach about 200 undergraduates from right across the university. They're interested in the humanities, interested in Ireland. They're not necessarily majoring in our field, but they love to come to Ireland House to find out more.
The level of scholarship that comes out of Ireland House, the events that we have, the people who come here, notable scholars from all around the world in different fields, authors and musicians, and so many different aspects beyond just the course of study were all big points in choosing to come here ultimately.
By sharing their deep love and appreciation for all things Irish, Irish history, language, music, culture, ethnic identity, diaspora, immigrant studies, and more. They have pushed the frontiers of knowledge and built a close and supportive environment for our students and those across the globe.
They came like swallows, and like swallows went. Yet one woman's powerful character could keep a swallow to its first intent. And half a dozen information there, dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum, found certainty upon the dreaming air. The intellectual sweetness of those lines that cut through time or cross it with our shins.
Since its founding in 1993, Glucksman Ireland House has educated thousands of students and hosted hundreds of events with incomparable poets, writers, historians, cultural icons, entrepreneurs, performers, and many more.
Giving a reading at Ireland House is a rite of passage for Irish American authors and Irish authors in America.
Somebody once quipped that if James Joyce was writing today, he'd want to launch his book at Glucksman Ireland House.
One of the most exciting developments for me in my time at Ireland House is we've just launched the Glucksman Irish Diaspora series, which is a series of history books with NYU Press, publishing the best work on the field of Irish migration globally.
Your knowledge of what you'll take away from an Irish study or an Irish history program is so much wider than the island itself. To me, it's, in the most Irish sense, brilliant.
A message from the 46th President of the United States of America. Dear friends, I write to you as a descendant of the Blewitts of County Mayo and the Finnegans of County Louth, of an Irish-American family that imbued in me a sense of pride that spoke of both continents, a soul and a heart that drew from old and new, a pride in community, faith, and above all, family. All these years later, I write to you from a White House designed by an Irish hand, in a nation where Irish blood was spilled in revolution, for independence, and in preservation of the Union. And the bridge between the two nations goes back and forth, growing wider and more necessary with every year that passes. Linked in memory and imagination and joined by our histories, we are nostalgic for the future. So it was then, so it is now. Mrs. Heaney, it's no secret that I count myself among the millions of people from around the world who find solace and purpose in your husband's words. Though I know from experience that even years after a deep loss, even his poetry perhaps never fills his absence. My hope for you is that his memory now brings you a smile to your lips before a tear to your eye. Taoiseach, I look forward to working with you as I have with your predecessors. We have much to do to address the great challenges of our time, this deadly pandemic, the economic unease and anxiety, the climate crisis, and the rise of political extremism and risk of isolationism. Let us work together so we are the nations where hope reigns, with an optimism that is brave and digs deep. And to the students of Glucksman Ireland House, I look forward to working with you as well. You are part of one of the most gifted, tolerant, and talented generations ever. As your ancestors were before you, be at once dreamers and realists, compassionate yet demanding. Embrace our interdependence and be sustained by a spirit of resilience, peace, and possibility. This is your time to write the next great chapter of two great nations and two great friends. As you join together virtually in that very spirit, I send my heartfelt best wishes and 1,000 thanks to you all. Joseph R. Biden. P.S. The son of Catherine Eugenia Finnegan.
Hello folks, I am Joanie Madden and I'm absolutely delighted to be celebrating the Glucksman Ireland House, the amazing teachers and also the lecture series as all part of Irish Studies program at New York University. I also want to celebrate the three honorees tonight, Dan Barry and Finucane, and the wonderful Mary Micheál, our former president of Ireland, who loves traditional Irish music and again did so much while she was president. It's just an honor to be a part of tonight's program. I also want to celebrate the fantastic our Taoiseach Micheál Martin, as well as the Queen herself, the woman who has done so much for the Irish in America and in Ireland, Loretta Brennan Glucksman. Incredible woman, the Queen herself. I hope you enjoy these couple of tunes that I composed. I'm going to perform them along with my band, Cherish the Ladies. We recorded them socially distancing in honor of the situation we're in right now, but we are just delighted to be part of tonight's program. Thank you for inviting us, and long may the hard work and the beautiful work that they're doing at Glucksman Ireland House continue. Thank you. Enjoy. 2, 3, and...
Last year, when the pandemic broke, I was teaching my history of American immigration. I had 20 undergraduates with me in Ireland House. The university didn't close down. It just reorganized on a remote footing. We all scattered. We stayed connected, and we look forward to getting back on an in-person basis when we can. And I was struck in a way by how that experience with my students resembled what we were studying in the class, which was the idea of diaspora itself. That idea has three elements. One is relocation, the second is connectivity, and the third is return. And that's one of our big issues that we study in Ireland House. How do people migrate in history? Often it's due to catastrophe, the Irish famine, slavery, genocide. How do they regroup and reconnect when they are abroad? What sort of emotional bonds and political bonds do they form? And then how do they look forward to the idea of return? Sometimes it never happens. They dream about returning to a homeland. So that was an interesting coming together. And what struck me most about my students was just the great ingenuity and imagination and good humor and fortitude that they worked through this experience with me, both personally and intellectually.
And now for some greetings from the 16th President of New York University, Andrew Hamilton.
Hello, I'm Andrew Hamilton, President of NYU. Every year, the Glucksman Island House puts on a gala of exceptional warmth, substance, and community. So it is no surprise that even in this unusual year, they've created an exceptional virtual gala as well. And really, how could it have been otherwise with Loretta at the helm? We are deeply honoured to welcome the Prime Minister of Ireland, Micheál Martin, and a group of extraordinary honorees. Those honoured this year are receiving their awards in the names of figures that evoke our greatest respect and fondness. Lou Glucksman, who along with Loretta brought Island House into being. Pete Hamill, a New York City icon who through his reporting and writings gave voice to those who had none. And the great bard Seamus Heaney, who fused language and history into some of the most powerful poetry of the 20th century. Our honorees also share a key trait. They are deeply committed to promoting equity and social justice and to giving a voice to all people, not only those with privilege. It is a commitment shared by Glucksman Island House, whose initiatives we'll hear more about shortly. Over the past few weeks, I've found myself struck by a feeling that has been in short supply over the course of a challenging year. One that, as an Englishman, I tend to think of as coming more naturally to the Irish, and that is a sense of optimism. The work of our honorees, the political moment, and the tremendous community that supports the scholarship and outreach of Glucksman Island House. These are all wellsprings of optimism and hope. Thank you for being part of it and for your continued support and friendship. We are deeply grateful.
It is a distinct pleasure to welcome the Prime Minister of Ireland, An Taoiseach Micheál Martin.
I am delighted to send warm wishes to all of you gathered online for Glucksman Island House's virtual gala and to extend my congratulations to tonight's honorees. For 28 years, Glucksman Island House has played a vital role in promoting the study of Irish and American history, heritage and culture in the United States and beyond. Over those years, it has become one of the foremost focal points for the Irish in New York. Glucksman Island House has led the way in expanding and enriching our understanding of what it means to be Irish American, including reaching out to African Americans of Irish heritage in recognition that our community is diverse and that diversity empowers us. I warmly welcome Glucksman Ireland House's leadership in exploring and celebrating Irish-Jewish connections in the city. And importantly, I want to acknowledge the work they have done to create a space for discussion of the Scots-Irish legacy. All of these set the foundation for an inclusive Irish America, one that resembles modern Ireland. This year's honorees represent the best of Ireland and our diaspora in the United States. Dan Barry's exceptional writing and investigative journalism, his sense of purpose and his careful craft make him a fitting recipient of an award named in honour of the late Pete Hamill. Dan's compassion for his subjects shines through his writing. He seeks to give a voice to the voiceless. We owe him a debt for his work in illuminating deeply uncomfortable aspects of our society and forcing us to confront hard truths. I also want to congratulate Glucksman Ireland House for initiating this award. In this age of disinformation, professional journalism is more important than ever. We should support and celebrate those who excel at their craft. I say this despite knowing that I will at times be at the sharp end of their opinions. I also want to congratulate Anne Finucane as this year's recipient of the Lou Glucksman Award for Leadership. I want to thank Anne for her commitment to Ireland, her investment in Ireland and in our workforce as chair of Bank of America Europe. Anne has shown global leadership in sustaining the bank's commitment to diversity and inclusion, as well as in her work driving efforts to address racial injustice and economic inequalities. Finally, heartfelt congratulations to our former president and my friend Mary Micheál on receiving the Seamus Heaney Award. Professor Micheál has achieved so much in her 2 terms as President of Ireland and throughout her life before and after. She has brought her scholarship and experience to bear on some of the most difficult aspects of Irish society, including the complex relationship between the Catholic Church, the state, and the people of Ireland. She has long been a passionate advocate, fighting for the rights of women, for the LGBT+ community, and for those in our society who have historically found themselves marginalised. More than 20 years ago, when as President of Ireland she was conferring the honour of Sea of Aosdána on Seamus Heaney, Professor Micheál said, and I quote, "If we are a proud Irish people today, if we are self-confident, if there is a purposelessness and a spring in our step, if there is a cultural renaissance at the heart of today's Ireland, Seamus Heaney it was who placed the seed," unquote. Mary, you nourished that seed. You helped to strengthen our confidence as a nation, to make us feel deserving of that pride in your work as a lawyer, as president, and since. Thank you and congratulations. All 3 of this evening's awardees have done much to help create a better Ireland and a better Irish America, where all can feel like they belong. Lastly, but far from least, can I thank my good friend Loretta Brennan Glucksman, an honorary Corkwoman from her years living in Cove alongside her beloved late husband Lou. Glucksman Ireland House is just one of your many contributions to the Ireland-US partnership, but it is one of which you can be especially proud. The Glucksman Ireland House Gala at the end of February each year in a way marks the start of the St. Patrick's Day season in New York. Clearly, this year's season is going to be very different from any other, but I know that despite the challenges we all face, we will find ways to mark it and celebrate it. Banachtín a felle orv galéir.
Please welcome, all the way from Europe this evening, the virtuosic Sir James Galway. And you'd better clear your throats, as he might just ask you to sing along.
Hello Loretta and honorees. I would like to play a little tune for you, but it's something different. I think the audience should all sing. And we're going to sing When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. Here's just the intro. Here you go. You're very good. Would you like to do that all again? Come on. Thank you. Good luck and God bless.
Delighted now to welcome Kieran McLaughlin to introduce the 2021 recipient of the Seamus Heaney Award for Arts and Letters, former President of Ireland and Chancellor of Trinity College Dublin, Mary McAleese.
Well, good evening, friends. And for those of you fortunate enough not to know me, my name is Kieran McLaughlin, and it is my distinct privilege to introduce the recipient of the Seamus Heaney Award for Arts and Letters. An activist, a lawyer, a campaigner, a teacher, a theologian, an author, a stateswoman, a peacemaker, former President of Ireland, Mary McAleese. Mary's 2 terms as president were anchored upon her absolute commitment to the twin goals of equality and reconciliation. Mary was and remains an ardent, unswerving and courageous campaigner for economic, gender and racial equality. For her life lesson is that without equality, there can be no justice. She made the themes of her presidencies bridge building, and she set out to build bridges between the 2 communities in Northern Ireland, between the peoples of Northern Ireland and the Republic, and between the islands of Ireland and Great Britain. And in doing so, she brought people to places they could never have imagined and encounters they never thought they'd have. And those bridges have remained strong, sturdy, and permanent. And perhaps the apogee, or undoubtedly the apogee, of her endeavours in the whole world of reconciliation was the historic visit to Ireland of Her Majesty the Queen. It was wildly successful, and it is described, may I say, in great detail in Mary's book, which has just been published, and please excuse the shameless product placement. But students, future students at Glucksman Ireland House will study the historic implications of that great event. But one of my favourite reflections on that visit was several days after the Queen had left, I was speaking to a Dublin taxi driver, inner city, tough guy, tattoos on his arms that were as colourful as a cathedral rose window, telling me that he was completely opposed to the visit. He is a lifelong Republican and thought it was a betrayal of Republican values. But then he told me that at the moment at the state dinner, where the Queen stood up beside Mary McAleese and spoke in the Irish language, he started crying, unexpectedly and uncontrollably. And he told me it felt like a weight had lifted and that the anger of an argument with a dear friend or a dear neighbour had just been dissolved. So really, that is a sign of the extent of Mary McAleese's influence, from the granular to the ground. In the Cure at Troy, Seamus Heaney tells us that once in a lifetime, the longed for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme. When Mary McAleese added a swell to that tide and made an absolutely immeasurable contribution to making Seamus's vision a reality. And with that, it's my great pleasure and my delight to introduce a great, great friend of Glucksman Ireland House, an author, a columnist, an editor, and Seamus's wife and soulmate for so many years, our very own Mary Heaney.
Thank you, Kieran, for that introduction. Dear Mary Micheál, the Seamus Heaney Award for Arts and Letters at Glucksman Ireland House at New York University was created in memory of my late and beloved husband, Seamus Heaney, who died 7 years ago. I know that Seamus would be particularly pleased that you, a fellow Northerner and a dear and longtime friend, have accepted this award. As an inspirational president of Ireland for 14 years, you, with your husband Martin, did inestimable work, building bridges between the divided communities on our island. I salute you for the tenacity and the courage that you brought to that important task. And now, dear Mary, it gives me the greatest pleasure and honour to present you with the Seamus Heaney Award for Arts and Letters at Glucksman Ireland House at New York University. Warmest wishes and heartiest congratulations.
Díomh Carja August Micheál Mila Wakas as Octum Currow of Ran Parcha Sin Image Shaw. Hello from the banks of the River Shannon to Ireland's great friends by the banks of the River Hudson at Glucksman Ireland House. Many thanks to both Kieran McLaughlin, of course, and to Mary Heaney for those lovely, generous, warm words. But if ever there was a person who deserved a hearty hug of thanks from Ireland and its global family, it is surely Loretta Brennan Glucksman, because in these COVID days, I know we have to settle for words on Zoom, but there just aren't enough of them to adequately do justice to this wonderful champion of everything that is Irish in Ireland and in the United States. So not only am I very grateful to be among this evening's outstanding honorees, Anne Finucane and Dan Barry, and congratulations to both of them also, but it's a very special thing to have the privilege of receiving the Seamus Heaney Award from the virtual hands of Mary Heaney. And frankly, Mary, you have helped to redeem this miserable lockdown, and you've made it a time to relish and to remember. Thank you. It was Seamus who described Glucksman Ireland House as an amplifier for the native voice of Irish writing, culture and scholarship, an answer given to the famine ship. Well, that native voice is now not just green, but black and brown, a great meld, and not just in America, but in Ireland. And Glucksman Ireland House has been such a powerful advocate for the green, the black, the brown, for a world where diversity is the essence of creativity, where it is the essence of being human. Diversity of color, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, beliefs, opinions. These are the very essence of a vibrant nation, a healthy nation, where all are equal, where the talents of all are nurtured, where justice reigns and peace prevails, where all are embraced. We're not quite there yet, I know, in this world of ours. But two young women, one in America, one in Ireland, recently opened a window on that farther shore that we believe, to quote or paraphrase Seamus, is reachable from here. With her surname rooted in County Clare, poet Amanda Gorman stole the show as she took many of us bounding up that hill we climb on the day that America inaugurated a proud Irish American as its 46th president, a pastoral president for a nation in need of healing. A couple of weeks earlier in Ireland, another young Black woman, Nigerian Irish, Tolu Make, from County Offaly, she stole Ireland's heart when she sang the Saw Doctor's Paddy's poem, the N17, on our national broadcaster's New Year's Eve concert. Today's America and a first woman vice president a woman of colour whose heritage melds Africa, Asia, America. Today's Ireland, a young gay man whose background melds Asia and Ireland. He's our Deputy Prime Minister, or Taoiseach, and not so long ago, he was our Prime Minister, or Taoiseach. What a world to belong to, what a world to believe in, and what a world to work for, to insist on, and to defend against all the charmless naysayers who would exclude, disrespect diversity, oppress and repress if they could. Well, the good news is that old elites and backward attitudes, they're on the run. They held so many back from fulfilling their potential. But thanks to the work and the principles of Glucksman Ireland House and people like them, Seamus Heaney's great prophecy in the Canton of Expectation is beginning, I think, to come true. He said, "What looks the strongest has outlived its term. The future lies with what's affirmed from under." What he called the guardian angel of passivity no longer holds us back. The cloudburst is happening. Boats are lifting. We are capable of emptying this world of hatred. We can fill it with love of the black, the brown, and the green. And what mighty things they will accomplish together in Ireland and the United States in these two strong, determined republics of conscience. Thank you so much for this great evening.
Now we will have a special introduction for the recipient of the Lewis L. Glucksman Award for Leadership. Our 2021 awardee is Bank of America's Anne Finucane. Anne has been a true leader in Bank of America's $1 billion commitment to racial and economic opportunities and to sustainable finance business. Ladies and gentlemen, our board chair, Loretta Brennan Glucksman.
Well, again, this is a point of personal privilege to introduce the proverbial woman that needs no introduction, but even more than that, a friend for over 25 years whose life and career is an example in so many ways, in personal ways, in family ways, in professional ways, in philanthropic ways. Anne Finucane has all those ways in which she excels, and she does it every single day. Anne and I go back, as I said, a few decades, and I was always caught with how interesting she is and how interested she is in everything, so many different aspects of her life. And she is receiving the Lewis Glucksman Award in Business. I pulled rank shamelessly to get this gig, to introduce her, to give her that prize that Lou was and will be and is so very proud of. Anne is the personification of what Lou loved about his business. He loved the business. Not always all the people, as is not a secret from anyone, but Anne is cut from that very same cloth. The intellect that drives everything and the moral code that keeps it on such a high plane so that there is a surety that what they do, what Anne does, will benefit the maximized amount of people. And she has done that in a sparkling career in the Boston area and now with Bank of America. Anne is the ranking officer as a woman, but she is vice chairman of Bank of America. And the outflow from what she has set in motion through Bank of America, now I have to get this right because I know it's important to Anne and I don't do memorizing very well. The racial equality and economic opportunity Anne is very intent on making sure that every gift that Bank of America has given supports those high and very important goals. Racial equality, of course, and economic opportunity, to the tune of $1 billion. That's Bank of America, and most importantly, that's Anne Finucane. Anne had the great good fortune of knowing and then marrying the very, very right guy. Mike Barnacle is just a terrific person. He's a superb journalist. He's a great dad, and he must be a fabulous husband. I love the idea of Anne and Mike. I love being with them, which is not nearly often enough. I just like knowing that they exist. They are another example of what is possible through hard work, through selfless dedication to one another and to their work, and just the sheer joy of knowing they share their lives with someone whom they respect and the world respects. So I am delighted that Anne has agreed to accept the Louis L. Glucksman Award for Excellence in Business. It is my deep honor and my personal privilege to have Anne as a friend, to admire her as a mother, a wife, a person in business who excels at everything she does. Thank you, Anne, for accepting this award from Glucksman Ireland House. And here's Anne Finucane.
Thank you, Loretta. I feel doubly honored tonight to receive this award in the name of Lou Glucksman, who had such an extraordinary and storied career and who did so much for so many. And to receive it from you, Loretta, who I am lucky enough to call a friend. I am a proud member of the Irish American diaspora, so I know so much of what Lou and Loretta have contributed to the welfare of our community and to Ireland. Their commitments to Ireland are legendary, and I'm particularly talking about the establishment of the Glucksman Ireland House. It's just wonderfully welcoming and intimate and a terrific place for so much activity and history to be joined together. I do want to say there's a special series, the Black, Brown, and Green series, which examines the diversity of the American immigrant experience that I find as timely today as it is fascinating. And if I may put in a plug for Bank of America, it has been like the $1 billion commitment we have made to advance racial and economic equality. In fact, much of what I've been able to accomplish in my career is because of Bank of America and my colleagues. And I think you know that our European headquarters are, yes, in Dublin. And as such, we share a commitment to promoting Ireland's culture in all its richness and depth and breadth. We're particularly proud to support the Abbey Theatre and the National Gallery of Ireland, two institutions which are the subject of scholarship and inquiry at the Glucksman Ireland House. We've also been proud to support Music Generation, which Loretta backed right from the beginning with a nice assist from Kieran McLaughlin. But we've been delighted to be a part of that as well. And may I say, I am honored to be in the company of Mary McAleese and Dan Barry in this evening. As President of Ireland and now Chancellor of Trinity College, I have followed Mary's career throughout these years, and I am just honored to be in her presence. And as for Dan Barry, no one better in the New York Times. He embodies the importance of quality, inquiry, and fearless journalism. So thank you all. I look forward to a time when we can all be together. And until then, have a good night.
Glucksman Ireland House was founded in 1993 by a couple who had a very broad vision of identity, an Irish American and a Jewish American couple. And that openness and outward looking approach to identities and the embrace of culture has informed everything that we do at Glucksman Ireland House in terms of our approach to the study of forms of identity. So we've spent a little bit of time looking at the Jewish and Irish experience, and more recently, we've embarked on a very dedicated documentation strategy and public humanities initiative to look at the diversity in the Irish American experience through the Black, Brown, and Green voices.
I come from a less than traditional Irish family, perhaps. My mother's from Ireland, but my father is from Jamaica.
I'm half Black and half Irish, and it was a really accepting place to find a sense of community in yourself, I guess, in your own identity.
The NYU community at Glucksman Ireland House does a great job of incorporating biracial Irish people, queer Irish people, and people who have Irish identities that might not have previously been included in the narrative of Irishness, because there is a lot of us.
Ireland House is not an insular world, but it is an incubator and a connection to a wider community.
Their broad and inclusive view of what it means to be Irish is reflected in the Black, Brown, and Green Voices initiative, giving voice to the diversity of the Irish diaspora by recording their history, life histories with Black and Brown Irish Americans. Glucksman Ireland House provides a welcoming home for all who visit.
The series has brought African Americans of Irish origin and mixed race children of Black and Irish, giving them the first neutral ground, free space, safe house to talk about Black and Irish experiences.
This program, the Black, Brown, and Green, was really another component of telling a story of erased communities, erased stories, erased histories, and tell the stories of people who haven't had the chance to tell their stories, because we're a lot more mixed than people tend to believe.
NYU Glucksman Ireland House has really been working to re-envision what Irishness means and to put marginalized voices back in the narrative of Irish history.
Please welcome Glucksman Ireland House professor and renowned musician Mick Moloney, who is accompanied by Athena Tergis.
I'm very honoured today to sing a song for you written by one of my favourite songwriters in the north of Ireland, Tommy Sands, from beautiful Rostrevor on the shores of Carlingford Lough. Many years ago he wrote a song for all the people who try to make the world a better place, and he's a widely travelled man like myself. And he wrote Daughters and Sons about the kind of world that I think we'd like our children to grow up in. And very honoured to sing this song for you today. And joining me is the extraordinary Athena Tergis, who's also remote in Tuscany in Italy. Daughters and Sons. They wouldn't hear your music and they pulled your paintings down, and they wouldn't read your writing and they banned you from the town. But they couldn't stop you dreaming, and the victory you have won, where you sow the seeds of freedom in your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. You sow the seeds of freedom in your daughters and your sons. Your weary smile, it proudly hides the chain marks on your hands, where you boldly tried to realize the dreams of everyone. And though your body's bent in two, a victory you have won, where you sow the seeds of justice in your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. Sow the seeds of justice in your daughters and your sons. I don't know your religion, but one day I heard you pray for a world where everyone could work and children they could play. And though you've never had your share of the fruits that you have won, you sow the seeds of equality in your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. You sow the seeds of equality in your daughters and your sons. They taught you Belfast, they tortured you in Spain. And in that war so ghetto, they tied you up in chains. In Vietnam and Chile, when they came with tanks and guns. But it's there you sow the seeds of peace in your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. It's there you sow the seeds of peace in your daughters and your sons. And now your music's playing and your writing's on the wall. And all the dreams you've painted can be seen by one and all. And now you've got them thinking, and the future's just begun. Where you sow the seeds of freedom in your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. You sow the seeds of freedom in your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. In your daughters and your sons. You sow the seeds of freedom in your daughters and your sons.
Tonight we inaugurate a new award, the Pete Hamill Award for Journalistic Excellence. Prize-winning reporter and columnist of the New York Times, Dan Barry, will be the inaugural recipient. Here to introduce Dan is Peter Quinn.
Although I regret it can't be in person, I take great pleasure in presenting this first annual Pete Hamill Award for Journalistic Excellence. In the terrible year just past, we lost two amazing New Yorkers, Pete Hamill and Jim Dwyer. Both the children of Irish immigrants, they both made their unique contributions. They both made a difference. Pete was one of the first people Loretta and Lou turned to in their ambition to create a global center for the exploration and celebration of the Irish and Irish-American experience. Pete's voice, original, powerful, compassionate, lives on with New York Times reporter and Pulitzer Prize winner Dan Barry. Like Pete, Dan rejected the notion that a reporter's job is covering self-promoting celebrities and real estate developers. Dan's made America his beat. Like Steinbeck and Whitman, he's ventured across this land of ours to chronicle our endless search for our American dream. Like Joseph Mitchell and Jimmy Breslin, he listened to the outsiders, all-time losers and everyday heroes, and distilled the human elixir that is the essence of New York. A century or two hence, when historians try to figure out what this time of pandemic and political pandemonium was about, they'll turn to Dan. At the heart of Dan's writing is a painstaking recounting of the extraordinary resilience of ordinary people, an eloquent sympathy for those lost in the shadows of bunkhouses or flophouses, a searing indignation at the official callousness that tosses the bodies of 800 Irish children into a nameless grave. Ultimately, what defines both Pete and Dan isn't just the magic of their prose or the excellence and honesty of their reporting, but courage. The courage to get the story right, whatever the price. The courage to tell the truth as well as find it. Dan, I know you're floating out there somewhere in Zoom land. So with appreciation for your reporting, admiration for your skill, talent, and perseverance, and congratulations on your achievement, on behalf of Glucksman Ireland House, I'm honored and delighted to present you with this first annual Pete Hamill Award for Journalistic Excellence. Dan, my friend, congratulations.
Thank you, Peter Quinn, good friend, and as we all know, the embodiment of the Irish-American experience here in New York. It's really a humbling honor to be receiving the Pete Hamill Award for Journalistic Excellence. Pete Hamill, I don't know about you, but I find comfort in just saying his name. He taught younger journalists like me, I was young once, but he taught younger journalists like me to hear the music of this city, and you can hear some of it now, to understand its meaning and what it's telling us. And he taught us to recognize the story and the worth in all of us, the humor and the tragedy and the necessity of our shared struggle. He taught us to hold the powerful accountable while also seeing the poetry in the everyday, in the mundane. He embraced diversity, and I think this is very important. He wasn't interested only in the stories of people who looked like him. He was interested in all of us and seeing all of us as pieces in the same story. Most of all, Pete Hamill never forgot where he came from. And I don't mean just from Brooklyn or from an Irish family. He never forgot where he came from in the sense of that being a place of want, of blue-collar struggle, of people just trying to make it to tomorrow, of aspiration and moving one step up. And so I am honored so much to receive this award named after the great Pete Hamill. I'm also cold, so as you must be, and I'll try and make this brief, okay? I'd like to congratulate tonight's other honorees, Mary Micheál and Anne Finucane. It's wonderful to be in your virtual company. You both look lovely this evening. I'd like to thank everyone at Ireland House, Kevin Kenny, Miriam Nyan, everyone at that building at the bottom of Fifth Avenue. It's become a home, hasn't it, for art and music and literature and intellectual pursuit in trying to explore the Irish and Irish American experiences. I'd like to thank the board, Ted Smith and everybody for this. It's really wonderful. And of course, I have to thank Loretta. So how big is she that you just say Loretta, sort of like Madonna or Cher or Beyonce, and you know who we're talking about, the great, great Loretta. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank my wife, Mary Trinity, for abiding me all these years, and my daughters, Nora and Grace. And what can I tell you? I'm very honored, and I wish you all better days. And you know what? Here's to Pete Hamill. Thank you.
But also, he understood the other lesson of many of the people, Irish, Italian, Jewish, Polish, German, who lived through those hard years, that you could live through hard times and not feel self-pity. That was the unforgivable sin after cruelty.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Morgan Bullock, and I am so thrilled to be part of the Glucksman Ireland House virtual gala. I would like to congratulate all of tonight's honorees and to share with you all my passion for Irish dancing. This piece is very special to me because it was actually filmed at the location where my parents got married. I'm dancing to a song called Fly by Joel Hannah, Namal Ann, and Sean Softly. I hope you enjoy.
And now, some of our supporters and members of the advisory board of Glucksman Ireland House will read an excerpt of Seamus Heaney's The Cure at Troy.
Human beings suffer. They torture one another.
They get hurt and get hard.
No poem or play or song
can fully right a wrong inflicted and endured.
History says, don't hope
on this side of the grave.
But then, once in a lifetime,
the longed for tidal wave of justice
can rise up, and hope and history rhyme.
So hope for a great sea change on this far side of revenge.
Believe that a farther shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracles and cures and healing wells. Call miracle self-healing, the unpredictable double take of feeling. If there's fire on the mountain and lightning and a storm, and a God speaks from the sky, that means someone is hearing the outcry and the birth cry of new life at its term. It means, once in a lifetime, that justice can rise up and hope and history rhyme.
Well, unbelievably, it's time to say goodnight. And I'm so tempted to say this was an embarrassment of riches, but I'm not the least bit embarrassed. In fact, I feel so grateful, gloriously humbled, and so assured that this work, what we celebrate here tonight, is definitely going to go on. As Seamus would say, and I'm not quoting Seamus, I learned that a long time ago, never quote Seamus. As Seamus said, sort of, if we wintered through this, we can summer anywhere, and we shall have a long, glorious summer. We will continue this invaluable work between Ireland and the United States, among all peoples that are interested in their heritage, Black, brown, green, anyone. They're all welcome here to Glucksman Ireland House, and to the amazing scholars and the dedicated supporters and members who have made this place so vital from the first day in 1983 when Lou and I opened the door with Jay Oliva from NYU and Albert Reynolds from, as he was the Taoiseach of Ireland. So raise a toast, as is our wont, to Ireland House, to Ireland and America. We'll continue the work. It will go on. Thanks to you all. God bless, and so grateful. Good night.
We are nearing the end of a wonderful evening. Thank you for supporting us. Gurv Míle Maith. We are most grateful to our sponsors and thank you for your generosity of time and spirit. Please get involved with our programmes and we look forward to gathering in person sooner rather than later. To lead us out now in true Irish fashion, we have Cherish the Ladies again, led by the inimitable Joanie Madden. Ihuwa a Chorja.